Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Blockstate update. Today is going to be a little bit of a slower one because we're going to start off by looking at how the week is going to be looking like when it comes to the big upcoming events. We're going to be looking also, as usual, at the blockchain charts. And we're going to be looking at Bitcoin TA today. Now, the fun thing about the Bitcoin TA is that we're going to be talking about the bigger macro moves. Officially, we haven't had any big macro tops on Bitcoin. I haven't seen any blow off tops. So until I see a blow off top, I'm going to still be looking for more upside. Now, let's all remember that the upside is likely going to be restricted. We're not likely going to be having a big, massive blow off top. But what we are going to have most likely is going to be another revisit to the top. Usually when we make our top structures on Bitcoin, we tend to see multiple tops or multiple strikes at the top region. And I think we're still going to be making a new all-time high. It's not going to be significant, but it's going to be one more little push where we're going to have like the true big overblown overextension. Then after that, we're going to be looking at sharp drops. So what we're going to do here is we're going to track on the TA and the blockchain where it is we're standing and where it is that we're going to be looking at those upward top structures. Also, it's important for us to look at those upward top structures mostly and almost really because as we've been breaking down, we've been forming new topping structures on the shorter time frames. Zones that used to be support that they're most likely now going to be acting as resistances. So it's going to help us pinpoint in smaller time frames where that top region is going to be. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about this. So let's start off by going into the blockchain charts. Something's happening right here with my what's it called? With my webcam. Sorry, guys. There we go. And if you guys can notice, this is the Bitcoin swing chart. You can see right here, right? The Bitcoin swing chart. And also talking a little bit about on the bigger fundamental and the bigger macro. Right now, we're not expecting to see super wild choppiness, nothing too crazy because most of the news has been going through. A lot of the bearish catalysts has been going through also. So unless we have like a surprise bearish kind of news or weirdness, that's going to be able to drop the market even further. There's still a little bit of lower targets. I want to talk about that also with the Bitcoin TA. But let's start by talking about the swing chart. So the swing chart is giving us a buy right here, and we are actually having a bounce. We talked about this back on last Wednesday, I believe. And we're also making this little bottoming structure on the swing chart. So we got two big indicators on the swing chart calling for a bottom. So we got these little bottoms going in. If we look into the Bitcoin top chart, the top chart is now getting, still not there, but it's now getting into that bottom zone. You can see right here that we have a buy signal, meaning that we have very oversold conditions on Bitcoin, at least in the short term. So this is a good candidate for a bounce. But also, more importantly, we have right here another buying indicator, almost giving us a buying signal. So if you guys can notice, right over here, we don't have a bounce off the structure. That would be the ideal. If we could have a bounce off that little structure going on in there, then this would be ideal, but we don't have that. We're not having that right now. So I want to be a little bit cautious about this one, meaning that we can still drop a little bit more, have this little bounce, and then have that rally back to the upside. Because even though that all the indicators are giving us a buy signal, this one over here, it's technically a small little one, but I would feel much more comfortable if you had a little bit of a push to the downside. But in the end, we're going to trade this in the swing trade manner that we're going to be trading out. We're going to be trading the breakout when we get that breakout confirmation. So it's going to be easy for us to chase that upside when we have that reversal confirmation. We're going to talk about that in a second. So if you can see, most of the indicators, they're giving us indications that we're getting to that bottom we're almost getting to that bottom, or we are already there. So I would feel pretty confident about looking into DCAing, and if you're buying in spot, my recommendation is to buy in spot, or if you're going to be putting in those longs, put them pretty wide. Keep those stop losses below 10,000. We're still a good price, but still the entry, we're still looking at lower entries. We're going to talk about that in a second. Now, if we go into the Bitcoin dashboard, this is the only one that's not looking super bullish. This is the only one that has a little bit of bearishness going on. We're still sort of making a bottom over here, but we're still breaking under. We're still having a little bit of a breakdown here. So this is the only one that tells me that, okay, so we would not be this bullish if if this is going to continue, because we're breaking under the trend as we're making a bearish cross. So we can just continue breaking down, and that would be absolutely terrible. So by tomorrow, we're going to have that confirmation if we're going to be having that reversal. Of course, we're going to be trading along when we get that long reversal trend. So when we get that happening, that's going to give us our confirmation that we're going to be looking for a long. So let's talk about the Bitcoin TA, and let's talk about where we're going to be looking at the local structures and what we're going to be looking when it comes to those bigger macro structures. So the ideal long entry, let me turn these on because I turned them off for the X video I made on the weekend. I want to give public audience any TA here. But these are all the things that we're talking about over here. And remember that we also, first of all, remember that I don't have any big macro tops, so I'm still open to the idea of a big macro tops. Remember also that we have all these things in play. All of them are still in play, or most likely. I'm going to look into divergences by Wednesday. We're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive on TA. But right now, if you want to be looking for that long, you want to be getting in here as we break above this level. So you got two ways to trade this. So first of all, we can wait for that breakout above 118,000 as of this hour. Or if you're going to be doing a shorter time frame trade, then you would be waiting for a break above 1,500. So $115,000, sorry, $115,000. That's going to be a good little breakout entry for Bitcoin. But also one important thing is that one of the indicators telling us that we have good odds that we can go all the way to 11,000, 12,000. So I'm still of the idea that it's good to be patient and wait for this little bit of a bounce down here, and just have that confirmation by Monday morning. If it doesn't happen by Monday morning, then you would be looking for that buy and waiting for that confirmation for a breakout. If you guys are macro long, then I would tell you guys to be patient and wait until we break above 118. And after we have those breakouts, we're going to start looking at back above to these targets where we're looking at. But there's going to be one new structure, which is going to be this one. Now, let's talk about this little structure we got going on over here. So let me turn off everything and let's talk about like this local structure. It's a local top. It's a local trend. It's nothing too important, but it's still something that we need to be aware of. So if you guys notice, I plotted out this little trend line over here. This is the previous trend where we were looking at Bitcoin acting as support. So we had a little bit of a bounce over here, and we had bounces over here. So this is a local structure. It's not a big macro one. To be fair, it's only a few days old. Let's see. I think it's just going to be like a week old, 2 weeks old. It's not going to be that old. Well, maybe a little bit more than that. So this is a month-old trend. It's not super old, but it's not young either. It's still relevant. So this trend over here, it's likely going to be acting as our top resistance. I know that I gave you guys a target right here. No, not right here. I know I gave you guys a target right here, 114. Let me see if I can plot that trend line right there. But there's a little bit of an issue with this one. The issue is that we're going to be rallying, and if we have a break to the upside from the old trend, let me zoom into the 4 hour so we can track this one again. If we have this breakout on the 4 hour, then it means that we're going to rally, and then we're going to slam our head right here. So the best thing that Bitcoin can do at this point is just go down here, have a little bit of a bounce, then go sideways for a few days, cool off a little bit more, then have that rally and go all the way over here. That's the only way we're going to be making a new all-time high. But it's going to take us some time. So unfortunately, if you want to be looking at those all-time highs, if you want to see that freedom to go and push even higher, we're likely going to need to do this slow. The good news about going slow is also that altcoins are going to have a good chance to rally. So if we go slow, then it means that altcoins are going to have a good shot to go as Bitcoins go sideways. So meaning that when Bitcoin does this, altcoins are going to start popping to the upside. So it's going to give us some good interest for altcoins. Even right now, we're going to have some good interest for altcoins. And as Bitcoin goes sideways, altcoins are going to pop off most likely. And they're going to be making new little all-season kind of things. They're not going to make new all-time highs, but most likely not. But they're going to have some good rallies. So some good 23, 50% rallies in some alts. So maybe even 2x, 3x on a couple of them. But it's going to give us some good entries. So remember also, if you guys want me to do TA on altcoins, send them over so we can actually talk about them. We can start reviewing them and evaluating if these are going to be good ones. Now, also, one thing I would like to talk about a little bit here is that on the bigger macro, if we're going to zoom out a little bit over here, if we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and bigger tops, remember that we have some very big, very important, massive trends right above us. And we have a few of them. They're not 1,000 of them. They're just a few of them. And the big ones are going to be... Let me just confirm these tops. This is actually a big top also. And this is a big one also. And do we have another one? No. we got a few things going on over here. So I'm going to put this top, or I'm going to put this topping structure in a different color. This topping structure is going to be in a different color because it's very important for us to not forget this top. So I'm going to put it as usual in cyan. This is the thing that I want you guys to observe. Now this trend line, this is a hard top. Well, I can't put in cyan because I actually have another big important one also. So I'm going to put in yellow. Yeah, whatever, yellow. Or what's a better color than yellow? I mean, this is a very hard top. I just want you guys to be aware that this yellow trend line is a very hard top. And this is a soft top, a punchable, pierceable top. And this one is where you start seeing, this trend line is a trend line where you're going to start seeing resistance. But this is hard resistance, very hard resistance. Now, the bad news is that if we zoom out over here, if we stretch out these trends, I'm going to show you guys right here. If we go into the daily, actually I need to go into 3-day because it's just such a long-term trend over here. If we go into the 3-day time frame, you can see that the yellow trend line starts over here. I'm going to zoom in right here. You can see that the yellow trend line starts over here. It tops out over here. And this is where we actually smacked our head to the upside. The bad news is that we already smacked our head right here onto this top. So we now know that this is resistance. Now, what I'm expecting here, and let me turn off pretty much everything else. Let me turn this orange one off, and let me turn this one off also. And I'm going to turn off the price. So I'm going to turn it back on when we're done with this, when we're almost wrapping this thing up. But if you can notice, we got a couple of things going on over here. Let me turn this one off. Okay. So if you guys notice this area, you're going to see that this topping structure we got over here, this is more like an area. If we zoom in over here, you can see that right at this point, you can go above it, or you can get straight up rejected right there. So you can see you can get straight up rejected right there, or you can get right above it. I know it's really small. Let me zoom in a little bit more so we can see it. Let me put this one in, freeze this one right here. And if I zoom in right here, there we go. Okay, there we go. You can see that you can either start getting in here and get rejected, or you can go all the way to the top and get like fully rejected. You can see that the purple trend line, it's a hard top structure, and the yellow one is it's pretty much as bullish as you can get with this trend line. Now, the fun thing here is that you can see that Bitcoin, when it tops out, it challenges the top several times. It goes into that area a few times. So we have officially, as of right now, gone in and we challenged that top here. This is back in 2024. We challenged it back in 2024, and we challenged it back here. We actually gave Bitcoin a few months of cooling down. This was back in January 2025. We gave it 6 months of cooling down before we went back in. Then we gave it another challenge. Now, what I'm expecting here, and this is where I'm expecting to see the big top, I think we're going to have one more push at least, maybe two. We're going to have one more push at least. We're going to try and break above this. Then we're going to get rejected, and then we're going to start going into the deeper bear market. So that's what I'm expecting to see here. I'm expecting, and let me repeat, I'm expecting for us to go back up here, challenge this structure again, and then eventually break back down. So I think we're going to have one more shot at that upside. Now, how long is it going to take? I have no idea. It's going to take a while. It's not going to be a fast thing, but this is why I have this target over here. Now, one thing I want you guys also to be very aware is that we also have a big macro trend. We have a very, very big, very, very old macro trend going on here for Bitcoin. And I'll show you guys the big macro trend. It's this one. This is the fair value price. Actually, funny deal. I'm pretty sure that when Bitcoin gets bearish, we're going to have eventually a decline. And I think we're going to go all the way down here. For all you guys that are wondering, and I know it feels pretty unbelievable. I know it feels very crazy. But for all you guys that are wondering what the price is down here, I'm just going to leave this right here. And I'm going to tell you guys that we're going to go down here eventually. Now, the top could be, I mean, if it comes in 2 years or something like that, it's going to be around 10,000. But I think we're going to go back here and we're going to revisit this structure, and we're going to revisit this bottom. I think that there is a very big possibility. But if it's not down here, then I can tell you guys, like with extremely high degree of certainty, that we're going to go down here and we're going to revisit this price. So for all you guys are wondering where I'm talking about, like these bottom price structures, I would say that's going to be either 32, it's going to be 10. or 9, depending on whatever the price is going to be when we get there. And if I can get this to be pixel perfect, etc., etc., etc. But I think it's going to be around this range. So I think that we're going to have very high odds of going back down here. Now, for the topping structure or wherever it is, we're going to be looking at those big macro tops. Then I'd say that we're going to need to stretch out this trend a little bit, and we're going to try and confirm this thing over here. So where is that top for Bitcoin? So I'm going to close this off, and I'm going to close this off because these are bigger macro things. But if we can see Bitcoin on a 3-day time frame, remember that we're looking at the same structure over here. And this is where I'm looking for that big macro top. If Bitcoin decides to be super, super incredibly crazy bullish, then I'd say that Bitcoin has a shot going all the way to 129,000. As time goes on, this goes up still, but this 129,000 target, this is a very, or 130,000 target, this is a very, very extremely strong topping target for Bitcoin. So if we get all the way over there, we're going to get rejected just as hard. But still, we got a lot of different little topping structures. It all depends on when we get there, at what time frame it is that we get there. But we got some very important structures over there. And I want you guys to keep an eye on all those little topping things we got going on, because these are going to be extremely, extremely important. So remember, guys, that we are in a zone of resistance. Remember that we are looking at a local top, and we got some few topping structures. The fun thing is that this is like the local time frame topping structure. Is it possible for us to get all the way 138? I mean, it is, but I would say it's like a 10-15% chance for us to get all the way there. And first of all, we need to break above 123. If we break above 123, then we're likely going to go to 130. If we break above 130, then we're going to go to 138. So, I mean, we're going to need to take the market a chunk at a time. But right now, we're holding right above support as of today. We're going to need to give another day to confirm that we're bouncing off here. And then we're going to be moving back to the upside. For all you guys that are looking for that entry to jump in as we confirm Bitcoin being bullish or bearish, I'm going to give you guys this entry. Just so you guys can be confident about jumping in and not being afraid. And I will tell you guys that you're going to need to micromanage this trade a little bit, but I would tell you guys that get in here at about 115. That's where you're going to be looking at those bigger targets for Bitcoin. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like the TA for Bitcoin. I am seeing that upside. I am seeing that bullishness. I am seeing good things when it comes to Bitcoin. But in the end, I'm still not going to be super hyper macro bullish. There are going to be very good odds that when we get here to 123 or when we get to 130, we're going to be making a big macro structure top. So to be really fair, and I'm going to just tell you guys like straight up, if you guys are looking for a short, then do a tight short right here and ride it all the way down and hold on to it as much as you can and just be a little bit tight so you don't get pumped out. And if this one fails, then go to 130. But from what I can see on the blockchain and the bigger macro, I can see weakness. I can see very clear, well-established weakness for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is not going to be looking that bullish for very, very long. Actually, you know something? We're not even going to be like fully talking about top with this one. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to stretch out this topping structure right here so we can actually start looking at that Bitcoin chase. So if we plot it out this way, it gives a little bit more leeway for an upside. So actually this looks, I need to switch it back into this one because this one's going to be a local resistance. So 115 for that long entry. And this trend line over here, this is going to be where we're going to be looking at that weakness. The fun thing is that if we break above the white trend line, if we do this, let me turn this thing off. The interesting thing here is that if we have this breakout and we move back up, we're going to be looking at this resistance, right? Then we're going to go up here. We're going to get a little bit rejected. Then we're going to be moving back up here. Then we're going to be looking pretty bullish because we're going to have a breakout. We're going to have a straight shot to the upside. And the fun thing is that when we get here, this green trend line is likely going to be acting as resistance. Now, if we can have this sideways movement, have a little bit of confidence, go up here, then rally and smack into these two, that would be like a humongous confirmation for a top. But right now, all of this is just speculation. We're still sitting down and we're going to need to wait until we have that confirmation of bullishness. Right now, we do have a blockchain buy signal, which is at least a mechanical buy signal, but I can also talking a little bit about the mechanical side. I'm not seeing any buys from the Mr. 100 whale. I'm not seeing anything right here. MicroStrategy already put their stock out and they already had a 12% drop. I mean, this drop was very nasty. I was just looking at it like a few hours ago. And MicroStrategy had a very nasty spell after they have their earnings, just dropped and dumped. Something happened in there. I'm going to look into this. I'm going to talk about this and like most likely in the Reddit report this week. But we had those earnings and already dropped this ass. So it's just going to be looking a little bit more bearish. And honestly, I can't see anything that's telling me that we're looking super, super bullish. Let me see fear and greed. BTC. And the fear and greed for Bitcoin currently, what's it looking like? It's looking pretty neutral. Not too much fear, not too much. Yeah, the markets aren't too rattled. So, I mean, that's pretty good. But, I mean, we can still have a little bit of upside. But just going back very briefly into the Bitcoin TA, I'll tell you guys that, yeah, we have still a buy signal, but we need to start clearing out these resistances. We need to clear out this one. We need to clear out this one and this one. And even if we clear out this one, then this one's going to be very hard. And then the next ones are going to be very, very strong. The fun thing is that if Bitcoin is truly bearish, if Bitcoin is extremely bearish, then it's just going to do this. It's going to blow through everything. How high are the odds that I can do this? I'm not really counting on it. I'm not really expecting that. But if you guys are looking like, if you're thinking, okay, Ricardo, but I want to be super hyper macro long, like bigger macro long, talking about like the big time frame plays, like the multi-month time frame. If you guys are looking to buy into Bitcoin, then you want to buy into Bitcoin when we break above 123. If we break above 123, then we can go 132, 38. That's going to be the biggest return for value. The biggest return for value would be if you long when we break above this, not before we break above it. When we break above this, then we can see that confirmation for upside. But if you're trying to get in early, then you need to have a break above this level. So we can try and see if we can get here, and then try and see if we get all the way over here, which would be a 20% move. That would be very, very awesome. But going much higher than that, it's extremely hard. It's not something that I would be counting on. And if we flip out right here onto the Bitcoin Fib circle chart, we're looking at this resistance right here. You can see we're rolling above it. Now we lost it. So going to 115, 116 in this case, that would be very bullish. And it's the same level, 116. Yeah, I mean, it's the same level as the 115 we got going on over here. I mean, we just need to push a little bit higher. If we can break above the purple trend line right here, then we can see the same breakout right here on the Fib circle chart. The same common level. And if you guys notice also, right here, we got this blue Fib circle. So even if we clear 116, there's still going to be resistance all the way to 118. But to be honest, if we can defeat 116.3, then I would say that, yeah, we're going to defeat $118,000. It's going to be really high odds that we're going to be able to do that because we're going to be clearing out all these resistances. We're going to clear like all these invisible little trends we got going on over here, and we're going to be able to pump much higher. But yeah, that's where we're standing when it comes to the Bitcoin TA. Now, to wrap up the chart, I want to talk about, let me turn this off. I want to wrap the stream up talking about the economic events this week. This week, we're not going to be, all my visualizers, they're all backwards over here. Give me 1 second, guys, to line this thing up. Then all these things, and this week, we have no big major events other than just a few Fed guys talking and maybe a couple of earnings. But nothing too critical, nothing that is going to be able to drop the markets. The bad news came out last week. Sorry, the big news came out last week, and that was enough to start shaking the market up, dropping the market down, start like really bringing in a lot of pain for the markets. But now we're clear of that, and now we're going to be we're just going to be keeping up, looking forward. So the big events we got going on this week that are going to be important for us to keep on tracking is going to be the ISM Services PMI. I believe that the manufacturing PMI is more important. It came out last week. But the services is still pretty important for us to track what's going to be happening when it comes to the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 businesses. And we also got initial jobless claims, so it's going to be important also just to keep an eye out on what's going to be happening during next week. But what's more important, it's going to be all the earnings. So this week we got a few earnings coming out, and the earnings calendar, I think we only have like one big event coming out this week. So let me look for it. And the big event this week, it's going to be McDonald's. Okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but McDonald's is going to be pretty important to track Bitcoin because McDonald's, it's going to be a good gauge to measure out what retail is doing when it comes to purchasing power. If you still see strong purchasing power on their little burgers and like their cheap menu items, then it means that retail still has a little bit of disposable income. But if it starts breaking down, if it starts going down, then it means that we're going to be looking at some pretty bad things when it comes to when it comes to disposable income and money going into the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. Because if you can't buy a cheap burger, you're not going to be able to put your money into stocks and invest your money, because you're going to be selling off things so you can make ends meet. That's like the big curse when it comes to what's it called? When it comes to retail. Now over here we have nothing on Friday. Just let me look at Tuesday. Maybe something important is going to come out on Tuesday. And on Tuesday we have AMD. AMD, that's going to be a little bit important. It's not going to be super important, not like Nvidia, but AMD is the competition for Nvidia. So what's important to track when it comes to the AMD earnings, it's not precisely like what they're selling, but it's rather to see if they're going to start putting out competition with the AI chips Nvidia has. So if you start seeing other companies put out AI chips, then it means that the bubble is about to burst, because AI chips are not going to be that lucrative, and it means that you're going to start looking at declines when it comes to earnings in the future for Nvidia specifically. Nvidia is very important in this case specifically for all the markets, including Bitcoin, because it's the asset that's pretty much propping up the whole market, and all the other big cap companies, they're all interacting with NVIDIA. Meta's interacting with NVIDIA. Google's interacting with NVIDIA. They're buying their AI chips. So all these businesses that are AI focused are using most likely NVIDIA chips to prop up their businesses. And if you start seeing slowdowns when it comes to chip purchasing by these companies, actually Google, for example, has announced that they're going to start buying NVIDIA chips after their earnings. So you're starting to see some weakness when it comes to the B2B side. Not when it comes to the B2C side, but when it comes to the B2B side, you're starting to see some weakness going on in there. But yeah, guys, that's what I got for you guys this week. So remember that next Tuesday, we're going to be having the Altcoin Weekly. We're going to be talking about altcoins as usual. We're going to be having our Altcoin Weekly. And I want you guys to send me over your altcoins, because we're having our buys right now. We're having our altcoin buy entries. So if you got any altcoins you want me to look into, I can tell you guys if we're going to be looking at that upside for altcoins. I can also tell you guys where it is that are going to be some good targets to track when it comes to selling off those altcoins. So if you got any good, interesting buys, or got something you want me to look into, send them over through DM in the Discord, and I'll be very happy to tell you guys if I see something on the Tuesday stream. So with that, guys, let's wrap up this thing. And remember, as usual, that I love you guys. And I'll be seeing you guys next Tuesday, and take care. Later, guys. Bye-bye.